Hi, welcome everybody. Um, Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. This is to provide families some special education resources, specifically for those who are in our Bridge or RISE classes. Our Bridge classes are typically our moderate to severe autism SDC classes, and our RISE classrooms are typically for our Mod-Sev SDC classes. Okay, and with us today, who is going to be presenting our first, and they're just going to wave when they hear their name. And we have Heriberto Soto, who is our parent engagement educator. We also have Carrie Cooper, who is our special education director. Okay. Lindsay Rasmussen, she's one of our TOSAs. TOSA is teacher on special assignment. And we have Kathleen McCarthy, one of our mental health therapists. I'm Julia Siegel. I am the orthopedic impairment specialist. And then we also have Hillary Talmadge, who is one of our program specialists. It's nice to see you all. Really quick, because this is over Zoom, if you put your cursor down at the bottom of your screen, there's a little black bar that comes up, and there should be a Q&A icon that you can click on. We encourage you, if you have questions, to go ahead and type your questions in there. We're going to try to, if it's relevant, we'll try to answer it right then and there. If not, we will save that and answer them at the end of the session. And we wanted to let you know also that your microphone and the video sharing tools are disabled except for the participants. Before we get into the meat of our presentation, we just wanted to provide some resources that you might already be aware of. The first one is IT or technical support. So this is an email or phone number you can call. And this is if you have issues with your hotspot or your Chromebook or any other device that you've checked out from Twin Rivers. And you can see it says tech support at twinriversusd.org. The phone number is 916-566-7802. And they're there for you from 7 a.m. in the morning until 5 o'clock at night. Additionally, the special education department has a main line that is also open Monday through Friday from 8 to 4. And that phone number is 916-566-1617. And if you do, you can always call after business hours, leave a message, and someone will call you back the next day. Okay, and the other one is student services. This is this phone number covers a lot of different departments. So we have student services, nursing, counselors, our homeless family support staff, and our foster care liaisons. And that number is 916-566-7801. Also Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. Okay, so our agenda for this evening is we are going to be talking about how some guidance on how to support student engagement at home. And this is based on some of the quizzes or the Google survey, and this was a great area of need that parents were asking for. So specifically, we're going to look at structuring the environment and then providing positive reinforcement. And at the end, we'll have some more resources for you and time for a Q&A to answer your questions. And we like to provide just a quick quote that can be, it's just a good reminder, even for us educators. So we like to share this frequently, but all students can learn and succeed, but not on the same day in the same way. So students, adults, all people, we all learn differently. We all have our learning styles.
I'm going to take over. I hope everyone can hear me. I apologize for some of these floating boxes on the screen. I'll try to keep them hidden as I share my screen. But as Julia said, we're going to talk about supporting student engagement while we're in this distance learning or remote learning format. And particularly, we're targeting students in our Bridge and Rise programs. But these are best practices for many, many different types of students. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is structuring the environment at home. And this has many levels to it. But really what we're talking about here is providing a structured environment with clear expectations to the student through the use of visual supports. So we know that when students have clear structure and boundaries, they know what to expect of the task and they're more likely to complete it. It also allows them to understand kind of what we think about as educators is what needs to be done, when will I be done doing it, and what will I get as a reward, and that will help with the completion of tasks. So when we're looking at these the structured environment, we're going to go through a few different examples of visual supports later and give some pictures so that you can see what they look like in the home. So why do we want to structure our environment at home? Well, there's lots of reasons that we want to structure our environment, and I have some notes here. So the first we really want to look at is increasing students' independence. As much as possible, we want our students to be independent. We know that they do have unique needs and they will need our support in many areas. But if we can, it helps build their independence for the future, and it also helps at home when we have multiple kind of responsibilities going on at the same time. We also want to provide predictability to the routine. So if we're developing a home routine for the school hours now, and we keep it pretty much the same every day, we know that students are more likely to start buying into pieces of the routine if they're not already. Having a structured environment will also reduce problematic behaviors. So you may have experienced with your students challenges attending to Zoom sessions, challenges with work completion, challenges with things that may not have been a challenge while they were in school. It's a very unique time for all, and so this can help reduce that. And it helps maximize the students' understanding of the environment. So students will kind of have a better understanding of, this is school, you know, it's hard right now because school and home have kind of blended into one, just as our working environment and our home environment have blended into one. But it helps communicate what the expectation that we have for the student is. And then, like I've said, increasing the students' understanding of the task. So when do we need to structure our students' learning environment? Really, I put down at the bottom, always. So since we're in this unique situation, we really need to be clear on the expectations of when school is, when leisure time is, when family time is, because it's all blurred right now. So I put, you know, during live lessons, that what we are calling the synchronous learning in the morning, and then in the afternoon during their independent work or the work that they're doing outside of the Zoom sessions. And if your student has difficulty staying in one place we might want to look at some of these visual supports. If your student has a hard time understanding that it's school time, I know that this has been a big one for my students at home here, my own kids, and for many parents that I've talked to, it's hard to understand why we're doing school at home now, and that the expectations, that we do have expectations for that time. And then do they leave the area out of frustration, or are their behaviors occurring at all? So if any of those answers are yes, then we want to kind of take a look at some of these supports and structures and see what we can do. So I wanted to jump into some examples of structuring the physical environment. So the first thing is just that, looking at where are they going to complete their schoolwork. So we say here we want to provide a dedicated space free of distractions and separate from play areas. So we all have different environments. Some of us may live in apartments, some may live in homes. We may have multiple family members living with us. Pets, we know we're all home using the same internet, working. So it's really important for us to understand that no matter what your living situation is, designating an area for learning is very important. And it doesn't have to look like some of the internet examples that you see on Pinterest or some of these other websites where the parents have gone out and purchased lots of things. We don't expect that. Just dedicating a space in your house for learning. So number one here, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but I just wanted to point out some aspects of this. It looks like the parents set up the desk facing the wall and then put these dividers kind of to limit distractions. There may be other things going on in the home. And this right here is a schedule that they've put up for the student. And then it does look like there's things kind of crowded on the top here, but what that is, those are the school books and the materials the student needs. So they're easily accessible, but they're kind of out of the view of the student, so they don't distract the student when they're not being used. And then the parent has put some work bins in here to place what they're working on in there, so they're easily accessible. And then over here, number two is actually from one of our families in the district, provided this picture with permission. You can see they have set up, they have their headphones, their laptop, and then this student, I'm assuming, has some communication needs. So they set up a communication board here where they can pull off the pictures and show them to the teacher to communicate, just trying to get creative. And then here on the cabinet, they've put all of their work materials so that they're easily accessible. And then I wanted to show the next one. These are more examples that with permission, some of our families let me use. And they were families of students in our bridge programs. So you can see here that this parent actually has multiple students in our bridge program and in other programs. And so they have a room dedicated. They've provided headphones to reduce noise because it worked for these students. It didn't work for all of their students. And then here, all of the visuals that they need for the day are organized on the whiteboard, and this is the student's specific work area. If you don't have a dedicated desk, you can use a table and just, have all their things set up there. Maybe there's a furniture that you can kind of make into a desk, just providing a space at home and being creative with it. And the one thing I wanted, I think I've talked about this, but just really quick, make sure the space is a different space from where the student is doing their leisure and their play activities. We want them to know it's for school and those distractions not to be available. The next part of structuring your environment is organizing materials. So keeping them easily accessible and ready to use, but also keeping them kind of out of the way so they're not distracting. So if you have a student that's highly distractible, maybe not having them in front of them on the desk, maybe they're in a bucket under the desk or on very close on a shelf. And then working with your child's teacher to know the best way to organize their materials. If you have a student who has some challenges with attending for long periods and the materials aren't organized, what could happen while you're looking for those materials. The student could become frustrated and engage in behaviors. So we want to have them ready and available to use as needed. And then actually I want to go back to that last one. I wanted to make a comment that the expectation is not that we need to go out and spend a lot of money on materials. If you have something you can organize, be creative at home. If you have a bucket that you can already use, Dollar Tree has some very nice $1 buckets that I've purchased, you know, as a teacher. And if you absolutely need some more ideas or need some support, do contact your teacher and they maybe can help creative ways to organize your materials at home. So I'm going to pass it on to Julia to talk about visual schedules.
So visual schedules are another way to provide predictability for students. So a visual schedule is something that communicates the sequence of upcoming activities or events using objects, photographs, icons, words, or a combination of any one of those, depending on your student's needs. So basically, a visual schedule tells a student where they should be and when they should be there. And they are designed to match the individual needs of a student, and they can vary in length and form. And as I mentioned before, they can really help provide structure and predictability to the day. And this in turn can help create a sense of calm and even safety for some of our students. It really helps them know what's coming and also what they've accomplished. Another benefit of visual schedules is it can help with transitions from one activity to another. Visual schedules can also help with language skills or literacy skills. And they can even help with teaching concepts of time as well as sequencing. So you have a first, then next. And when students should use their schedule really throughout their day. You know, it hopefully is available to them to reference throughout their day so they can kind of check to see where they are. And this can also help build independence for them, some of them. And ideally, you want to create it based on what is going to work best for your child. So they can be pictures or even drawings. They can be words or a combination of the two. Pictures may work better for our younger students or those with autism who are visual learners or those who are developing their reading skills. And for older students, simply writing it out might be more appropriate. Again, it's, you know, you're going to base it and kind of customize it to what works best for your student. And it does not have to be fancy. Remember, the purpose is to provide that sense of structure so our students know what's coming in their day. So these are some examples. A really common one that we use in our classrooms is a first then. So it can give them, again, that structure. So you would say something like, and side note, Lindsay is going to actually talk about this a little bit more in her further down. But, you know, this first one, it says, first we're going to work on flashcards, then we do puzzles. Another one is the one on the right over here. It has 2 columns. So it tells you what you have to do, what is to be done. So it looks like read book, maybe blow bubbles. It's hard to read. And on the other side, it says all done. So the student would, when they're done with one activity, they move it from the to do to the all done side. So they know what they've accomplished. Do you want to go to the next slide for me, Hillary? Thank you. These are some visual schedules that might be more appropriate for our older students that maybe don't need that picture support. And again, really, really simple. These are written on notebook paper. And you can just, you know, go down reading, math, then a break. You'll notice the middle one, it looks like it's probably been laminated and it has a pen or a dry erase pen. So the student could maybe cross off when they're done with a certain assignment. And if their schedule changes a little bit throughout the week, you could quickly erase it and rewrite it. But if not, if you're just using a notebook, you can certainly make one every day. I think it'd be great for students if they're able to, maybe have them write their own schedule. That'll give them a sense of ownership and independence. And again, like we've said before, if you're not sure, please consult with your student's teacher. Let them know you need a schedule. They'll probably be able to help you out, especially since they know the daily activities. And they can also help you identify what type of schedule that might work for your student the best.
Okay, so now we're going to shift focus to providing a break area for your student. And a break area is a space to help your student to manage emotions and to build their capacity of what to do when they start to feel frustrated or restless. And so you can call it a calm corner or a regulation station. It's a quiet, non-punitive space for them to take a brain break. And you'd stock it with different relaxation tools and visual strategies. And so this is a picture of a tent in a room. And they just have, actually for the cushion is a dog bed, but then there's a curtain to block sound and visual distractions. And then they've got a coping toolbox of different things to either distract or calm themselves down, or when they're frustrated, or they just need a break. So some of the things in the toolbox might be identifying their feelings. So this is an example of what they're feeling in their body, and then they choose a coping skill, such as breathing, or using a stress ball, or stretching, using a sensory bottle. This is really popular with our students. We call it a glitter jar or a mind jar, where as the glitter is settling in the body, they're focusing on the glitter while they're doing calming breaths to calm their own body and their own nervous system. Other things that they like with visual strategies, as I call this a breathing ball, where you can get them to pace their breathing or calm their bodies down by taking slow breaths in, holding it, and then breathing out. So it's really pacing their breathing to calm them down so they feel more still in their bodies. They also love kinetic sand, and you also can put different books. One of my favorites is The Tiger in My Chest, and it comes with coping strategies and visuals to calm themselves down. This one, Breathe Like a Bear, has different breathing activities. And then Moody Cow Meditates is about a moody cow, and he learns how to calm himself down by using a glitter jar. So like what I showed you, and then it has a recipe in it of how you can make your own with your child. Some of my favorite apps that I share with parents and teachers is using a time timer. That is an iPhone app. It is the app is free during COVID-19, and it's a visual timer. So when a child uses a break area, they would check in with their feelings. They would set the timer for however amount of time the brain break. They'd choose a coping skill, and then when the time ends, they would check in with their feelings again. So another timer that can be used, another app would be, it's called the Wait Timer. And the Wait Timer has a illustrated social story about waiting, and it has audio and visual timer that can be set for any amount of time, and it helps students deal with their frustrations that can come from when they have to wait or when anxiety caused by transitions between tasks. And then there's an app called the BrainWorks Sensory app, and that provides kids with sensory breaks where they check in with how they're feeling. They could be feeling just right, slow and sluggish, fast and stressed, or fast and hyper. And then they just set the timer and they get to choose from over 200 different sensory activities. The Calm, the Zones of Regulation app teaches them different strategies to manage their feelings and behaviors in each color zone, and provides calming techniques and sensory supports as well. And then the Calm Counter, that's a visual and audio tool to help children calm down when they're angry or anxious. And the app includes a social story with about anger and visual tools for calming down. So those are just a few you can check out on your cell phone apps. If you click on these links, this one takes you to a really short video talking about how to set up a Calm Corner, the benefits of having one, gives different ideas of what one may look like. So it's got some great helpful tools. It doesn't have to be elaborate. You can just put a sheet over a table and that could be their Calm Corner underneath the table. The next is a news story on Superbrain Yoga, which is a type, it combines movement with music, and it integrates the child's left and right brain so they're connected and communicating, and it helps them to support learning. It helps them to concentrate and to sharpen their minds. And then the next link is the Superbrain Yoga in Action. So there's a child that models the moves along with the music that the child can do along with it. And then Go Noodle is an app to go into where you can get more dance and movement videos. Next slide, please. So this is a virtual, I call it the Zen Den, but the child just goes and clicks on the different pictures, and then that will open up to a link of other coping strategies. Here's Moody Cow Meditates, the book I showed you. You just click on it and it will open up to a read aloud story. And then there's the visual glitter jar, along with some other relaxation tools that can be used during the brain break. And next slide. Okay, and this is a parent autism resource room. So again, it has more resources specific for the Bridge and Rise programs, where you just click around the different items in the room that will take you to strategies to use with the student.
So, okay, so going on, how can you start structuring your environment at home? Well, first is dedicating an area for learning. And like I said, it does not have to be a fancy area. We may have to get creative because there's many people in our home right now, right? We're all working from home or have all of our kids. Maybe we have family members. So be creative, but keep it a consistent area and try to have an area away from the play area, because that kind of sends a mixed message of what the purpose of the area is for. Consult with your teacher on visual supports that you need. If you're having challenges with behavior, consult with your IEP team if needed. Each student is different, so we provide kind of an overall view here, but we do know that there's going to be some situations that many minds need to be on to help make it better. Keep your needed materials in a box nearby, so organize those materials, avoid clutter and distractions in the area, and as best we can right now, try to minimize noise and traffic in the area while the student is learning. And I say that knowing that it's very hard for me to even do that, so, you know, and I know the importance of it, so do your best and try to keep a quiet learning environment. And I did want to add one thing with all these visuals, and then I want to let Lindsay talk about reinforcement. When you implement these supports with your student and they haven't been done in the home before, do expect an increase in behavior. And I know that sounds kind of counterproductive to what we want, but when students are introduced to new behavior techniques or new visuals, we often see an increase in behavior before it gets better. So I do want to put that out there, that if you implement a schedule and you notice that behaviors increase the week you implement it, I promise if you do it consistently, they will go up and then they will go down, and you will eventually see a difference in the learning environment and in giving that compliance with your student. So I'm going to turn it over now to Lindsay.
Lindsay, you're on mute still.
I've only been in about 5,000 Zooms, I promise. Okay, so we are going to continue to discuss increasing engagement for our students by using positive reinforcement during this remote learning that we're currently in. All right, so what is positive reinforcement? It's focusing on what your child is doing right instead of what your child is doing wrong. And this can take place in many forms. It could be verbal praise. So if you notice your son or daughter is sitting down great, you'd say, wow, great job with your calm body. It could be nonverbal praise, where you walk in and you see your student is engaged doing their work, you give them a thumbs up so they know that they are on track, and you're proud of them. And then also what we're going to be focusing a little more on is the reward aspect of it for today. So again, I'm focusing on what your child is doing right, and then we're going to be discussing reinforcing or using a reward or when they are performing the tasks or the behaviors that we want to see. All right, so positive reinforcement is an evidence-based practice, which means that countless studies have been done and shown its effectiveness, not only for students or children with learning needs or special needs, but everybody. And so what we are going to see with positive reinforcement is that it decreases the undesired behavior. So the behavior that we do not want to see, a student hitting, screaming, not completing their work. It's going to increase the desired behavior, so the behavior that we do want to see. So a student asking for help, sharing a toy with a sibling, or completing their schoolwork. It also will provide structure, routine, and very clear expectations for our students. And once they have this strategy down and the methods that I'll be sharing, they'll continue to use, you can continue to use positive reinforcement to teach new skills and build on their skill set. And then ultimately, with all that being said, it's going to increase your child's independence. All right, so over the next few minutes and slides, I'll be going over these 6 steps on how to provide positive reinforcement at home. So the first step is identify the task or behavior that we want to see. Secondly is identify the reward that the student has chosen to earn. Third would be providing a visual for the student. And I'll give you several examples on how to do that with just pen and paper at home. Fourth would be setting the deal with your student or your child, and then reinforcing throughout that task. And then lastly, providing that reward when the student has completed the task or has earned as many stars or check marks as you have set in the deal. So the first is identifying the task or behavior that we want to see. So what task does the child need to complete, or what behavior do you want to see? Some examples of this for the task would be completing a worksheet, participating in class meeting, or it could be other household tasks. Examples of behaviors might be remaining calm when frustrated, asking for help when Chromebook isn't working instead of pounding on the keys. And then also it could be transitioning from a high preferred activity. So when you ask them, all right, Bobby, it's time to turn off TV and come to dinner, come sit down, instead of throwing the remote or potentially having a tantrum, engaging in a behavior we don't want to see, we would hope that Bobby maybe asks for more time and then he turns off the TV, or he turns off the TV and comes and joins family for dinner. All right, next would be identifying the reward. And so this is the most important piece of this, that it should be the child's choice, because we want it to be very rewarding and very, very motivating for them. It has to be something that is worth their time to do a task that they don't want to do, or a task that may be really difficult for them to do. Next is offering several options. So not assuming, even though Caroline might choose that she wants to use M&Ms for 2 months straight, we always give options for them to earn something else. And as I mentioned before, it needs to be a motivating reward. And so it's something that I would encourage that student does not have maybe access to at all times, because we want it to be something that they are motivated to do that hard task and earn. So one suggestion I would say, if it's maybe a favorite YouTube clip or a favorite show on Netflix or a special treat, they only get to earn, or they only get access to that activity or toy when they earn it from completing the tasks or showing appropriate behavior. And then lastly, that the reward matches the task. So basically the amount of work that they are doing matches up to the reward they get. So for example, if a student might want tickles and they're younger, then you would say, all right, Joey, one math problem, and then I'm gonna give you tickles, and you do 5 seconds of tickles, and then you move on to the next problem, 5 more seconds of tickles. Versus a student that might be able to complete an entire math worksheet, and it could take them up to 10-15 minutes. Their reward wouldn't be just 5 seconds of tickles. It might be a longer amount of tickles, or something, a 3-minute break, or something that's equivalent to the amount of work that they put in. And so another very powerful piece to positive reinforcement is the visual aspect of it, so the visual support. So here are some typical examples that you would have found if you walked into your son or daughter's classroom when we were teaching in person. So first, as Hillary, or I believe Julia already mentioned, is the first then chart. So first math problem, then tickles. You then can move on to the token chart. So this might be something that a student can work a little longer for in order to earn the set amount of stars or check marks. So first 5 stars, and then you earn the computer. And lastly, this was mentioned before, it's that checklist for students that might be a little older, and they can also complete several tasks before they need to have a reward or be reinforced. And so it'd be simply checking it off, and once they complete all their tasks, then they get access to whatever reward that they decided on. All right, so this is looking at some examples of how we can recreate this at home without Velcro, without a printer, without having to laminate anything. So here are a handful of examples. The first one being number 1. So that is simply drawing out a picture. And I know Julia already touched on this. First work, then Apple. The next is simply making a token board or a token chart in number 2 on a blank piece of paper. And again, you can customize this. Your student or child might be earning 3 stars, 5 stars, 10 stars. That's something that I would encourage you to check in with your teacher and see what they recommend to start off with. And also maybe dependent on the difficulty of the task. The next piece, number 3 and 4, these are actually examples from my home. And I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I use positive reinforcement at home because most of us are working from home and teaching from home, and I need some structure in my day. So this first one, a couple of days ago, my daughter kept saying, "Mom, play with me. Mom, play with me. Mom, play with me." And I had a very important email that I had to get sent out. So what I did is I pulled out a coloring page, and this is just showing you that you can create a token chart anywhere. I put down 3 tokens. I said, "Okay, Olivia, 3 smiley faces, and Mom will play with you for 5 minutes." And so I drew a little picture of us playing together. I'm not an artist, my stick figures, and that was what was representing. And because of that, I was able to get 5 minutes of work from her, and I was able to get my email sent out. Another example, number 4, this is what is on my refrigerator. And this is just to show you that it's not about perfection, it's about delivery. And I'm a little embarrassed to show it because my lines are not straight and some of my stars are not even in the box, but it's about delivery. It's about could be consistent in it. And I just wanted to show you that again, it doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so similar to the checklist, if a student can complete several tasks before they receive a reward, another way you can reinforce that student is through a point system. So in picture number 5, you can see in order to earn screen time, which is TV, iPad, a phone, that student has to earn 25 points. To the right, number 6, you can also see this is a more tangible way to approach it, is that he actually has tickets or he has points that the student gets to collect and then physically turn into mom, dad, grandma, grandpa when he earns that reward. All right, so we have discussed that we need to identify the task. We need to identify what the reward is going to be. We need to have a visual in place, and then we set the deal. So this is something that you will verbally say to your students, as well as referencing your visual that you have, depending on whatever visual you're using. For example, first math, then break. Or when your checklist is all finished, you earn TV. And what I really like about this is a lot of times I will go back when I was in the classroom teaching, and if I saw a student who might start increasing the undesired behavior or behavior we don't want to see, or they are starting to become off task, I would refer back to the deal we set and remind them of it. For example, our last bullet, the student has to earn 20 points and then he or she gets video games. So if I see they're off task and they have 11 points, I would say, "Oh my goodness, Sophia, let's look at this. You only have, count up to 9 more points and you get your video game. Oh, I'm so excited for you to earn that. You're gonna have a lot of fun." So hopefully you can kind of get that hook back in, get that engagement going and motivate them on the deal that you had set. Okay, so lastly is reinforcing the task and behavior. Again, focusing on what they are doing correctly, what they are doing right, what we want to see them doing. So we already discussed that social praise and being specific in it. If you know a student is frustrated and you can tell, but they have a calm body, be able to say, "Oh my goodness, Joey, you have a calm body. How can I help you?" Or make sure that they hear that. that nonverbal praise, from giving a thumbs up, smiling, giving them high fives, and again, very importantly, giving tokens or points when they are showing that task completion that we want them to do, as well as the behavior that we want to see. And then in the end, we are going to reinforce with the reward. So what they had agreed upon when they completed the task, or when they earned all of their stars or all of their check marks. We also want to make sure that when the deal is met, that we immediately provide that reinforcement or that reward. So then they, it's meaningful, they have a connection, and they get it right away. All right, so lastly, as we mentioned before, we have additional resources, and I know everyone will have access to this PowerPoint, and so we just have more links for a deeper dive or more information if you're interested, some videos that were provided by Twin Rivers Behavior Team, as well as other really great resources. If you would like to check those out, those are available to you. And then now I'm going to switch it over for our Q&A, our questions.
Okay, so for any of you that might have some questions or comments for us, you can either speak out or put it in the chat box, and we'd be happy to answer those for you at this time. It could also be comments or any concerns you have or topics you'd like to see in the future. You could let us know if this was helpful at all. Your information and your comments that you give us will guide us in how to better support you. So we welcome any and all comments. Thank you, Monet. She appreciates the visual pictures explaining all the helpful options, and very helpful as a paraeducator. And another comment, thank you. I look forward to using the links.
So there is a question in the Q&A. I feel like my 6-year-old is bored with the token chart. Do you feel like 6 is too young for the point system? I would say no. If, like I said, you want to personalize it to what works for them. So if you feel a point system is going to be more meaningful and they will respond to that, then absolutely try that.
I absolutely agree. We want that buy-in, we want that motivation, and if they're motivated by that, then that's great that you're recognizing it, and I would move forward and try it out.
Absolutely. So someone else asked if we could explain the Rise and Bridge programs. So the Bridge programs are the special day classes that serve our students with autism. So it's a Mod-Sev Autism special day class. The Rise program, the Rise classrooms are for moderate to severe disabilities. It's also a special day class. So Bridge is specific to autism. Rise serves students who might have a physical disability or an intellectual disability. That's the main difference. And someone also commented maybe parents being trained on how to use the NY2 student logins. So that's a suggestion for us. And
A webinar back in May 28th that I went through accessing Unique, so N2Y, that curriculum, and I went through specifically on how to access it through student view, as well as how to access it's called the iDoc, the interactive piece of it, and all the different components. But I'd be happy to do additional trainings in that as well. That's something we can definitely consider.
Someone else asked about how families are having difficulties logging into Zoom but are marked absent. What would you recommend? Couple things: contact your case manager, but maybe call the IT line. They would probably be able to help you troubleshoot. I know they have at the high schools. Someone else might want to jump in and correct me on this, but I think if you call and make an appointment, you can go to one of the 4 high schools or different sites, and they can bring the equipment with you and they can kind of troubleshoot with you. But I would probably try calling the IT support line for that. Let's see, another question. How do I get my 4-year-old to draw? He doesn't like to draw or doodle. He wants me to do it all. I want him to engage himself, but he only relies on me to draw the pictures for him.
I will say my daughter is a perfectionist, and if she doesn't, she's 4 years old, and if she can't do it by herself, she doesn't want to do it. And so many times I would run into that as she would say, no, mom, you draw it, not me. I can't do it. And so I would actually model and I would draw with her and say, oh, let's do it together. And then as we're coloring, I would color out of the lines and be like, oh man, oh, that's okay. I'll just try again. And so I did a lot of modeling with her about making mistakes and just also engaging. But that's just my personal experience.
I have another suggestion is maybe try using different things like finger painting or drawing in the sand, using different modalities to get them to draw and to build up their confidence, their confidence to draw. And the other thing that's fun, a cooperative drawing between parent and child, is to do a scribble drawing where you'll draw a scribble and then you'll have the child then start where you left off on your scribble to do another scribble, and you just do it together until you create a drawing or a picture.
And that also might be something that you start, a little star chart. Maybe they draw for a few seconds and then you draw, so you kind of go back and forth, and you slowly make the time where they're drawing a little bit longer and you're drawing for a shorter amount of time, and kind of fade that out a little bit to where they're drawing more and more and you're drawing less and less. And you could reinforce that with a reward as well. And then someone mentioned for you, Kimberly, drawing by connecting dots might be helpful too. So that's another suggestion. Thank you, Robbie. These are good questions. Thank you, guys. Oh, someone also in the chat noted that the NY2 works best on a laptop. Laptops only available through district for teachers per IT department. Right, so families, I think, got Chromebooks specifically. I'm not sure if that is what you mean, but yes.
Unique is a web. Unique is a web, or I should say N2Y is the company. Unique is the curriculum. They are a web-based curriculum, which means that you should be able to access it through Chromebook, through your cell phone, through any web browser like Chrome or Internet Explorer. So if you're having some difficulties, I would encourage you to reach out to your teacher, and we can definitely problem solve with you on accessing it.
Okay, I see we have 3 minutes left. And any additional questions? Okay, and oh no, I'm not, sorry, I thought I was muted. I believe this presentation will be emailed to you, so you will have access to all the resources and the visuals that we provided. And I noticed that Oliver was putting in some of the links into the chat as well. So if you wanted to click on some of those and save them to your computer or anything like that, you can as well.
Hi,
Okay.
Mr. Varner. Thank you for your comment. We appreciate it. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Oh, yes. And thank you to Alonzo Pack. He was our ASL interpreter. I apologize I did not introduce you in the beginning, but thank you for being here. All right, everyone, have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next week.